Okay, here we go. Well, hello everyone. This is Blackfoot, and I hope everyone out there is doing fine today. And I know what you are saying. You are probably saying to yourself, "Where have I been?" Well, I have been working like a dog, trying to pay the bills, just like you, and you know what I mean. So, that's neither here nor there. But come on with the video. I know that's what you are saying, right? So let me come on with the video, right? The spook who sat by the door. I know you guys and girls have heard of it. But I must admit, I have not read the book nor seen the movie because people have spoiled it for me. I heard different versions for people giving me their insight, what they got out of it and, how it should be implemented and the whole 9 yards. They pretty much spoiled it for me. So, I do apologize for not reading it or watching the movie, but I did get a eighth of everybody talking, so I've been ear hustling for a long time about the book and the movie. So, but I want to show you the relationship between the spooks who sat by the door during Moses' time. And the spooks were his sister, his mother, as well as himself. And I'm about to show you how even though he was the spooks who sat by the door, they never wavered, just like the book. He gathered all the information and all the science and the culture, the mythology, all of the cream of the crops of the elite uh, Egyptian had, which was the Pharaoh, right? Moses was taught at the best school, ate the good meals, dressed in the finest of clothing, while while at the same time he was still being taught by his mother and his guardian angel sister, giving him the game, never swaying to the left or to the right, watching the burdens of his brethren, while at the same time plotting. And well, I wouldn't say plotting, because what had happened, if you guys have read the story, it came about spontaneously. He was looking upon the burdens of his people and he reacted. But before I get ahead of myself, let's dive on in with that, okay? Now let's take a step back here. During this time, Joseph and was crying at this particular time, chapter 50, because his father had passed away, Israel, Jacob, the father of them all. So he had him embalmed and, going through all of the Egyptians' ritual, whatnot. And during the process of time, Joseph himself has passed away. If you go down chapter 50 in Genesis, you will see that down here at the bottom, Joseph himself had passed away. So now, during this course of time, they all there and they are multiplying as times goes on. They having children, and here are the sons of Jacob, and then during the process of time, you can see here in verse 8, a new king came over Egypt who knew not Joseph. And, it could be as though like, a new generation coming up. And they not recognizing Joseph, old school Joseph now. You know what I mean? Uh they not recognizing what he have done. And they, it's like out with the old and in with the new. And so therefore we're gonna change this whole thing around. And they pretty much said, let's get rid of the male Hebrews. There was a decree, a policy to get rid of them, to delete the male boys here. And the midwives, they did not concede to it, right? So this is where we get interesting right here. Right? Now, let me make sure you guys and girls can see this here. Let me move this over here. Okay, I didn't want it to shrink it, but there. Okay. As you can see right here, there was a Levite man and a Levite wife, right? And they had a baby. And, during this time, uh, the decree was out to kill, or should I say delete, the boys, the male. So the mother couldn't hide him no longer here, and she made him an ark here. Now, if you look up the definition, I should bring it up here. An ark it's not a boat. Let me just bring it up here for you guys, girls can see this here. Let me define this right here for you. I don't want that. I just want a plain arc, okay? Here. Now, as you can see here, it's not giving me what I just want. Hold on. A arc. Let me see. Still, it's not giving me the definition that I had before. How interesting here. But it just basically said here it's a chest, right? It's a chest, or should I say a box. Now, it's not really giving me the plain definition of a ark. Let me see. Let me just get real remedial here, right? Okay, it's still just giving me that. Okay, we're not going to go too much into that. Okay. I'm really trying. Is arc a box? Okay, here it is. Let's get real remedial here. That's why I'm just basically trying to get. Say what's an arc? An arc it's not a boat, a box, right? That's what it is. So as you can see here to your left here, this is what Moses' mother made here, right? This is what she made. A ark, a box made out of bulrushes, right? And bulrushes is a plant. Oh my God, I didn't even have that up there for you guys and girls. Okay, so I'm really slacking here. Hold on here. Okay, hold on here. Crafting, weaving. Okay, bulrushes. That's pronunciation, right? Cattails are a versatile plant with numerous uses, including food, medicine, and crafting. Both can be used as weaving mats, baskets, and so on and so forth here. So this is what it is. Here it is that's just the raw material right there here. You can see that there. So Moses' mother made him a ark, a box, and she dabbed it with slime and pitch, basically to make it what? Waterproof, so the child would not drown. And at the same time, the child can basically pinch off something of it and eat it. That's neither here nor there, but you guys get what I'm saying. And she put it there in the flag by the river bank, right? Now, this is where it starts getting juicy at. Now, here, baby Moses is in his ark, and here, 4. And his sister stood far off to wait to see what would be done with him. Here, his sister is on notice. His sister is there watching him to make sure nothing happened to her baby brother, right? She's on guard. She's on vanguard. She's on duty. She is watching him. I wouldn't be surprised if, she went over there to try to feed him when nobody was around. His sister was already there. That bloodline, that Leviticus bloodline. Now, this is pre-priesthood now. This is pre-priesthood. Now, here, this is really getting interesting here. Now, the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked by the riverside, and when she saw the ark, among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept, and she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrew children," right? Then his sister, Moses' sister, right, to Pharaoh's daughter, right? "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child?" And Pharaoh said to her, Moses' sister, and the maiden went and called the child's mother. Now, let me continue, right? "And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give these wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it." You see this full circle right here, right? The spooks who sat by the door, that Pharaoh's daughter, maiden, was Moses' sister. Moses' sister told Pharaoh's daughter pretty much, "Hey, you want me to go get somebody to nurse the child for thee right here?" And Pharaoh's daughter said, "Go." And the maiden called the child's mother. Now, check this out, right? Now, it's not saying it, but I will engage for you. Pharaoh's daughter was naive or didn't even know that the child that she saw in the flags was Moses' sister. Also, Pharaoh's daughter did not know that the child was who she got Pharaoh's Moses' sister to go get a maiden to nurse the child was Moses' own mother. She was dumbfounded. She didn't know any of this, right? The spooks who sat by the door. How beautiful is that, right? Become full circle that the Most High watched this unfold or planned it, or I don't know, we don't know. But what it is saying this here, that these spooks by the door was on notice, right? They watched Moses. His sister was there and put the words right in Pharaoh's daughter's mouth. "Oh, hold on. Oh, you like this child? Oh, you want me to go get somebody to nurse it for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter like, yeah. She's like, "Oh, I got the perfect person. I'll go get the maiden. I'll go get the maiden for you. Somebody, who just had a baby. But Pharaoh's daughter didn't even know that it was Moses' own mother. Now, the spooks had sat by the door, right? Now let's indulge the story just a little bit more here, right? Now, and Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee wages." And the woman took the child. Look, the mother is getting paid to nurse her own child, baby Moses, right? And here's just a little bit of sidebar, and there's a couple more sidebars I want to say too. But I would like to know, what was Moses' name before Pharaoh's daughter named Moses? Because I'm quite sure that the Levite mother or father both named the child before Moses. But that's neither here nor there, right? But just a little sidebar. And Moses grew, and she brought him into Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." Right? Now let's continue here. Now he grew, right? He's an adult, teenager, or whatever the case may be, right? He's an adult now. And it came to pass in those days that Moses grew, that he went out unto his brethren to look on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren, right? Now, as you can see right here, as I keep going, that he recognized the hardship, what is going on with his people. And I believe he do understand the privilege position that he's in, but yet and still he's playing the fool. You know what I mean? He's playing the spook who sat by the door. and he's watching. He's not naive. He's not stupid. He sees what goes on. He's being taught in the schools of Pharaoh, and he's learning all type of things. And but yet and still, his mother and his sister are giving him the other side of the education. He's getting the Egyptian side of the education, and he's getting the reality check of his Hebrew brethren. Okay, so he saw this Egyptian smiting his Hebrew. And he looked this way and he looked that way, and there was no man. And he swooped the Egyptian and he hid him in the sand. See that reaction right there, right? He committed justice right there. He saw a evil was taking place. He saw a unjustifying act, and he committed action. He didn't bring. He probably knew, right, that imagine it was a courtroom, you know, and Moses grabbed this Egyptian, and bring him to the Egyptian court. He probably knew nothing was going to happen to him, you know. He like, look, these slaves, you know. He probably would have gotten in trouble himself of bringing an Egyptian to court for smiting or smoking an Egyptian. I mean, a Hebrew. You know what I mean? So he committed justice. He saw a wrong among his people, right? He didn't care about the privilege where he was at, eating some of the finest meals and dining and, no burden, learning all the crafts and all the privileges of being Pharaoh's daughter's son. You know what I mean? Comes with all type of that, dressing fine, smelling good, taking baths, all that good stuff. You know what I mean? All the privileges that it didn't matter to him. He saw injustice with his people, and he reacted quickly, decisively. Oh, I'm sorry, tongue tied. He reacted quickly. And what does that say? Right? What does that mean? What the teachings, he wasn't conflicted between the teachings of the Egyptian scholarly work and his mother and his sister. And I don't know how his father played in this, right? We don't know, right? Because he's an adult now. Because, the decree was a child getting born to kill or to delete the child. But his father, was probably in place some type of way as well, right? You know what I mean? So here, let's continue. And he said he went out the second day, and behold, two Hebrews strolled together and said to him, that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou fellow brother? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge of us? You intend to kill us like the Egyptian? Right? Now, we can't indulge in this. We can use deductive reasoning and reflective and natural sense. That here it is that Moses is in this privileged position, and he see how the conducting actions of the Egyptian are probably disciplined and so on and so forth, right? And here he sees that these Hebrew, his own brethren, are fighting. And yet and still, I know what he's saying, because we can look at that today, and we can pretty much, indulge ourselves in saying like, wow, it's like you are in bondage, you are being controlled. You don't know whether you're going to live or die the next day. What is you doing fighting each other? What business is that? How could you come to blows in such a matter that when your present situation desires you to come together and to get out of this madness, right? How do you have energy? What type of disagreement that you may have to come to blows like that? It should be squashed quickly and decisively And there's no need to put your hands on one another when you got your oppressors over you. You should be focusing on that. Excuse me. You should be focusing on that. Even at this time, in this biblical time, we kind of relate that to today. You know, why is you fighting and hurting each other when you have a bigger fish to fry? You know, and when Moses heard this, he was like, heard this, he sought to, when Pharaoh saw, I'm just gonna stop right there. Pharaoh heard this, and he broke out, right? The spooks who sat by the door, fascinating, right? Moses reacted quickly because you. As I think about it more and more, it's just little old Moses. It's little old Moses who grew up. He didn't even think about the consequences. You know what I mean? It was just him by himself, blindly committing a just act. Because he was just, he wasn't worried about the consequences of his mother or his sister. He saw a wronging and he wanted to correct it. He was all by himself. Imagine that. I don't even know what was the penalty, but I can imagine it was death because Pharaoh wanted to get him, you know, to slay an Egyptian. It is, we could look at that even today. We just have some of our freedom fighters, a lot of them by themselves, trying to correct a wrong against a machine. A machine that is backed by military resources, not only material but also men and women that is ready to lay their lives down for a machine that they know it is wrong, even today, even back then, to keep people in bondage. And you had little old Moses, the little old spook who sat by the door, did what he could. You know what I mean? He did what he could, and then he did what he did, and then he saw his brethren fighting among each other, and he got scolded for that. They're like, man, who the hell is you to tell me what to do? You know, it goes on even today. You try to tell your brother, and it's like, hey man, we shouldn't be fighting. They be like, man, who the hell is you? You can't tell me what to do. Same thing here. Now, with Moses, you got to understand the bloodline and all of that good stuff. Now, this is pre-Leviticus priesthood. Pre-Leviticus priesthood, and the Most High saw within that bloodline, saw that within Moses, that, he loved his people. He loved his people, and he wanted them to do right. And I believe the Most High saw that. He understood the disciplinary of that, saying, hey, look, y'all don't need to be doing this. You see, why y'all fight? We need to come together, And he also rejected all of that Egyptian brainwashing. Saying? He rejected all that mysticism and all that, whatever type of, excuse me, god or goddesses. He probably was going to the temple and, just playing it off or whatever the case may be in order to survive. He was a spook who sat by the door all the time, maintaining his Leviticus, his Levite heritage, his bloodline, his culture, and didn't wave no matter how much he was bombarded with many books of the Greek gods and goddesses and, all type of madness. But he didn't forget. It did not sway him. You know what I mean? Beautiful. And the Most High recognized that. He understood that. And he probably got word from one of his, angels. We don't know. We don't know, but we know that he was chose for that. No matter how much he was a spook who sat by the door, he never went in. You know what I mean? He was there, but he never went in to take upon the Egyptians' ideology. And it's a beautiful concept, and that is why, he is the forefather of the Leviticus priesthood, the discipline. You know what I mean? Playing the fool, playing a role to get things done in a time that it needed to be done. Playing the nut role, playing the fool, but at the same time, he's not forgetting who he is and providing that disciplinary, that mental disciplinary, that physical disciplinary to carry on. And his people, his mother, his sister, always watching him, on guard. Beautiful thing, that bloodline, it says a lot and it means a lot. And then you can go on talking about with Dana. Remember, them people had took Dana and their sister and the Levites along with Simeon. They reacted. They reacted. Law, discipline. Because without law, ladies and gentlemen, we have chaos. And that New Testament had pretty much damaged us, because that has nothing to do with law. It has everything to do with emotions and, human sacrifice is an abomination. You guys and girls know that. Y'all, you know the truth. Deep in your heart, you know that, but you just, I don't know. I don't know. And it's not, I'm not going to even go down that rabbit hole. So, the spook is set by the door. Oh, another sidebar before I leave. If you understand as you can see the picture right there, the bulrushes, the ark, and pitched it with slime, you must understand that Noah, if you go back to Noah, you would understand it was an ark too. It was pretty much a box or a chest. It wasn't a boat, right? And it is kind of spooky, but I know it's not really spooky. But if you read it closely, you will understand that it wasn't no boat. It was an ark, and all the animals in there, but it wasn't no boat. So that's just a little bit of sidebar with that. So the spook who sat by the door, I'm going to read it one day. I promise you. If not, I will watch the video. Like I said, a lot of people have spoiled it for me. And if you guys got any insight for me, please feel free to comment. I would love your rebuttal, your insights, your comment would be greatly appreciated. I'm a very easygoing type of guy. Nothing is too stupid. Nothing is too obscure. Make a comment. You got anything to say about it? Do you have any suggestions on my next video that you would like for me to expound about? Please feel free. I want you to feel comfortable and let me know. Your engagement is very much key because I would like to know. And that is it. I'm gonna do another one. It has everything to do with the MIB. That analyzer. I forget what it's called. It'll come to me. Or the Men in Black when they flash you with that thing, neuralizer. I believe it's called a neuralizer. I'm going to be doing my next video on that. So, with that being said, the spooks who sat by the door. Hope you like this video, and shout out to the women out there who are the vanguards to Zion. And with that being said, you guys and girls, love y'all to death. Peace out.